Okay, real life traders. Now we are recording. Let me just give you the date. It's Friday. It's October 6th. We are looking at 3:08 p.m. So we are approaching the end of the trading day. We've got, 50 minutes left, 52 minutes. So, but what we're doing is we're just doing a quick recap of the markets, and we are looking here at the ES. And again, just give me a one. I want to make sure when I hit record that didn't take away the screen share. Give me one real quick, just to confirm that you are still seeing my chart here of the S&P. Beautiful. Thanks, Martina. Okay. So what I was saying here with the S&P, right? Look at this, how these two lines here I already had, and I just added this line here. But look how perfectly we came up into here. We hit that previous overhead resistance that we failed to get through before, and we got rejected, right? Big shock. Not really, right? It's kind of what I would expect. But here's the difference, right? What we want to keep an eye on is when we came down here. So if we go back here, and we're going back quite a bit, right? So we go back to here, price came down, right? We got below this line here. And this line actually, I didn't drop in here until after this pivot was formed. I still have here's my bearish trend line that we were under for quite some time. But what you want to look at is price comes down here, right? When it gets down in here, it comes up and it hits this level, and then it gets rejected and it comes lower, right? So why is that important? Well, it's important because what happens right now is going to be key to, are we going to have a repeat of this, or is this just, we got up into previous overhead resistance, just like we did here, we get rejected, but instead of coming all the way back down to here, we're just going to do a retracement, right? And we're going to get down into this previous resistance becomes support, right? So we broke through this level and this level here. We're just back down retesting it, right? And that's all. And then on top of it, what's great is that in addition to coming down and retesting that previous level, what do we have right here? We've got the daily 200, right? It's the perfect storm in terms of things aligning, right? All right, I'm going to shift gears real quick. Hang on a second. We're going to come back to that. Let me go to Tesla. I had this up on another screen. Here we go. This might be it. What I want to show you is this line here, right, on Tesla. That was my area where I was looking for it to get rejected. And on the daily, so this is a 3-minute chart here. Let me switch this over to a 5. I don't want to be on a 3-minute chart at this time of day, right? So let's just keep an eye on this for a minute, because I do like the way that this is potentially setting up. So on the 3-minute, right? On the 3-minute here, we were looking like we were getting a nice shooting. Nice shooting star, right? Which would be exactly what I want to see, except that at 3:12 in the afternoon, I'm not relying on a 3-minute chart like that. I need to see it more on the 5, the 15, and the 30. So let's just do that real quick. So 5-minute chart, how are we looking? Again, this line right here, right before I came on, I was watching Tesla, and I'm, having the same thoughts as Johnny in terms of, I'm looking for some type of a potential reversal. I mean, look at this. Look at this move. Look how far we are from this, the VWAP. Look how extended we are right now from VWAP. And that doesn't mean that we can't stay this way. We could easily. Now, also, when you look here at the volume profile, couple things, right, that I'm looking at that catch my eye. First of all, point of control is down here. It has not moved up, right? And that tells me that, price can move away from the point of control, and it can stay away from it as it has here. But that point of control, the key thing about that is that's where the majority of buyers and sellers agree where price should be today, right? So it would make sense for it to try to pull back to that area, especially with the VWAP here as well. I mean, this is really extended. The only thing that I'm looking at as well is that if you look at the volume profile here, now I'm also going to take off, let me take off the pre-market at this point. So these nodes that are extending here, right? I mean, you look at that, that's gonna provide, because where price is above that, that's gonna provide support, right? The way I look at these are like branches of a tree, right? If the branches are really short and you're falling here, you're just going to keep falling, right? But if the branches are sticking out and you're falling, you're going to hit this branch, it's going to slow you down. You're going to hit this branch, it's going to slow you down. This one, it's going to slow you down, right? So doesn't mean we can't roll, and it looks like we possibly are. Let me move this. I got a chat pane I need to move out of my way. Let's go and look at the higher time frames. All right. So what I do like right here, okay, on the 15 is that we're getting some type of a, see if we can finish this with some type of a shooting star. This could be, see, the only with the 15 right here, right? We're not yet breaking the lows from here. What I don't want to do is get caught in a trap, right? You know, I'm thinking that going short is the right move here. Like that's what I've been waiting for and looking for. But I also don't want to get caught in a trap. And we currently, you know, I'm looking for some type of a signal here, right? And we're not getting a close below the previous 15-minute candle, right? So the 5-minute, that's fine. You know, that, you know, we've got a lower wick there. You know, it was shaping up to be a decent looking bearish candle. But again, at this time of day, I'm looking at the 15, I'm looking at the 30. Let's go to the 30-minute. See how we're looking here. So 30-minute chart. So 30-minute chart, we've just got, you know, we're forming a doji. We've got another 15 minutes before this is going to close. And then here on the hourly, right? So here's the hourly chart. So I'm still going to hold off on doing anything with Tesla right now. Again, it's 3:15, and you know, when I took over for Johnny, I said if I don't see something by 3:15, I'm likely not going to take anything, right? So that's part of now, like I'm following my plan, right? So, and especially given that it's a Friday, it's been such a strong bullish trending day. You know, I went into this with a plan, and part of becoming a consistently profitable trader is being able to honor and stick to that plan, right? So if I go, okay, well, if I don't see a setup by 3:15 and suddenly at 3:30 I see a setup, if I take that, I'm breaking my plan, right? I'm not sticking with my plan. And the reason I went into this at this time the way I did is because I've done this enough to know at 3:15 on a Friday, if I'm not getting an optimal setup by then it's probably better just to pass, because this could easily drop a little bit. You know, if I go to the 5-minute chart here, right? We haven't even double topped, right? We just came up here. You know, the volume profile, right? If I look at the volume on these candles, yeah, we got a little bit of an uptick in the, you know, that's what I'm looking for, right? I'm looking for increased volume at the top of the move, but I'm also looking for some type of like a shooting star with big volume, right? And if I look at the volume here, it's like, okay, well, it's not crazy volume, right? The volume on this candle, and first of all, it's not a shooting star, it's a pretty bullish candle. Is not, you know, doesn't jump out at me. Like I would want to see some type of a really nice spike, but then have that finish with a with like a shooting star candle. So I'll keep watching this, but as of right now, 3:17, I'm not looking to take another trade at this point, right? Because it's getting too late in the day. It's been, it'd be one thing if there was, you know, reason to think that we could really roll over hard, right? But this having been such a strong bullish day, you got to question whether it's even possible, right? I mean, the bulls are here. Now, what I also want to show you is look at the 15-minute. Let me zoom out a little bit here. This is one thing that I had seen and identified. Let me zoom out a little bit here. So since what? Since 11:30 this morning, right? Right here. We have not yet crossed back below this. This is the 10 EMA on the 15-minute mark, 15-minute chart, right? Look at, I mean, how it's just riding, and you can even see a little bit better here on the 5-minute chart. So it's this jagged line, but look how perfectly it's, I mean, here's the 5-minute 10 EMA, right? But here's the 15-minute. And we have just been on the 5-minute, just riding that 5-minute 10 EMA all day since 11:30. And this 15-minute 10 EMA really hasn't even been tested, right? So at this point, if I'm thinking about going short, what I think would happen, right? And again, this is the if then, right? And you got to come up with these if then statements, these thoughts, these, come up with some type of a thesis as to what you think price could do if it started to roll over, right? Well, so here's my if then. If price rolls over and interacts with this 15-minute 10 EMA, then I believe price is going to bounce one more time, right? So there's my if then, and I could go through every single ticker right now that I've been watching here. So there's Tesla, here's Nvidia, right? They all look the same, right? They've all been riding that 5-minute 10 EMA, and that really even hasn't tested the 15-minute. Yeah, it kind of got close here, right? It's more on the 15-minute 10 EMA now, but it hasn't broken it, right? So again, what's going to happen? Well, even if it breaks it, it's likely going to come back and retest that. So I'm just thinking about time of day, right? And now it's 3:20. How much time is it going to take for a short trade to work out at this point in the day? And the answer is probably going to take a lot more time than what we have, just given the strength of the move today. Let's look at Amazon. Amazon, you kind of get a, look at Amazon, same thing, right? Amazon really hasn't even tested the 15-minute 10 EMA. And it's coming down here is probably at this point going to bounce up, then make a double top, and then potentially look to roll, right? But at that point, again, where is it going to go? So unless there was some catalyst in the market that would make the market just completely roll over, anyway. So I'm through this whole thing, I'm just thinking out loud and sharing with you how I look at the chart, what I'm thinking, how I'm anticipating what price can do in the next, let's say, 30 minutes or so, right? And then I can then be okay with passing on a trade if it presents itself, right? For all the reasons that I've stated. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Let me get a sip of water. Cool. Martina says, yes, good stuff. Yeah, I'm just talking out loud as I'm looking at this and sharing with you my thought process. All right, so let's go back to the broader markets real quick. Okay, so back here, right? So all we've done is come down and retest this level. And so if we go back in time, right? If we look at this, and at the time, right, we were definitely in a bearish market at this point, right? But when we came up here and we got rejected, and then we came all the way back down here. Well, it took us coming all the way down here, coming up, and then double bottoming before we recovered and finally started this, bullish trend that we're in now. Well, if I look at this, I go, okay, well, we got rejected here, right? Same level we got rejected. I'm not shocked about that. And then you look at where we've pulled back to and where we're bouncing, right? Again, not shocking that this would be a level. Previous resistance is going to become support, and you got that 200 here, right? And then take one step further. I'm just looking at this. If I were just to throw on from this low to this high, let's throw in some fib retracements. I haven't even done this. I'm just winging this right now. I'm curious. I want to see, so from here to here, right? Look at that. You can't make this stuff up, right? 50% retracement. Again, like the tools, we all have these tools. It's, do you use them? Do you implement them? And do you rely on them? And, and that's one of the reasons why I love using Fibonacci's in my trading, right? Because they do work so well. And if you had, let's say, if you're looking for a place to go long, right, on this pullback, and you throw in this fib from this low up to this high again, I'm on a daily chart here, and you go, wait a minute, that 200 on the daily is perfectly in line with the 50% retracement, which is a bounce spot. No brainer. And then look at this day that we've had today. So it's not shocking, right? It's not shocking at all. And then I talked about this, I think last Friday, I think I was on, right? The other thing is, and I don't think Woodshed's here right now. Let me go to, I got my attendee list over here. Let me just look. I don't think Woodshed is here. No, I don't see Woodshed. Okay, but Woodshed is one of the things he's always looking for and trading off of is divergence, right? And I talked about this last week. This is, again, another great way to look at, price action and not to get freaked out about the fact that we went lower here, right? This is not, again, this move right here, all this isn't shocking to me, right? We came up here, when you zoom out the chart and go, okay, it's a perfect place to get rejected and pull back. And then you throw in the fibs and you go, okay, well, here's the 50% retracement. Here's the 200. Here's the two areas of previous support resistance, right? And we're right into that area, right? Nothing to freak out about, right? Then on top of it, if you look at this low here, right? Look at the low that we made here and look at the histogram, okay? And then if you look, now here, you can clearly see, we're making a lower low, right? This low, obviously lower than this low. But let me get a trend line here, right? It may not be hugely obvious, but look, then throw a trend line on from touch this histogram and this one, right? May not be, maybe that helps, right? But that trend line is going up, right? When you connect the histogram on this low to the histogram on this low, you can clearly see there's a bullish divergence, okay? And on the MACD here, right? We have the blue line now upturning. It looks like it could cross back over, right? Just like it did here, right? So, this is another really good tool to use. Again, I don't use the MACD or RSI or anything like that on my intraday stuff, right? I'm not going to load down my charts with, those kinds of indicators, but I do like to see on the broader markets, right? If I'm looking at, because look, the broader markets drive the markets, right? We all can agree that the S&P, the Qs, the Dow, all that is driving the market. That doesn't mean that there aren't tickers who tickers that are going to trade on their own and separate from the markets, of course, right? But for the most part, and because of catalysts, whether it's news or earnings or what have you, but for the most part, take away all those catalysts, right? Take away the news, take away the earnings, all those things that would make a ticker trade differently than the broader markets. If you strip that down, everything's trading together. So when I look at the broader markets here and I see that kind of a bullish divergence, right? It takes away any panic you might have with, because there's some pretty big bearish candles here, right? But if you look at it in the broader context, if you look at the bigger picture here and you know that this pullback here was necessary, right? It was due. Look at this move that we made here, right? It's a massive move without any really major pullback, right? So we come up here, we hit this previous overhead resistance, great. Pull back to the 50, now we bounce, right? Give it a couple weeks, we'll get back above this level. Simple stuff, right? Anyway, that's just some of the tools that I like to use when I'm analyzing and looking at the broader markets and trying to figure out, okay, are we really looking to roll over here, or is this just an expected pullback? And to me, this is just a normal, natural, to be expected pullback right down into this 50% range. I'm curious because there's a couple names here that are newer to me. Is there anybody here who's not familiar with the Fibonacci retracements? Give me a one in the chat, and because this is a perfect time for me to, help explain some of if you're not familiar with it, because I don't ever want to be presenting information or talking about things that maybe people aren't that familiar with. So I'm going to take a sip of water. If there's anybody here in the chat who's wants a little bit more information on it, please say so. All right. Not getting any feedback on that. So that's good. Okay. Let me get rid of this. No, you know what? I'm just going to leave that on. I like that. I'm going to leave that on there because that's going to help me see when I pull this back up on another day. Quickly, we'll look at the same thing here on the NASDAQ, right? I don't have this upper level here drawn here. And again, these levels don't have to be exact. I really probably would have, that line that I would have expected it to, that price level that I would have been expecting would have been more like, hang on. Would have expected it to be more like there. That would have been, that's really kind of where I would have thought that we would have come to before we got rejected. I guess that this line here, as I'm looking at it, if I zoom into this area here, I guess it's really kind of see, it's not even the neckline here. It's more up in here, but there's definitely some levels here. You can see, right? This would have been more along the lines of where I would have expected price to go. I'm just going to remove this one. But again, all we've done is come down and retest this level, right? And last week, when I think I was talking about this double bottom right here, right? I was like, look, we're down here. We're likely going to double bottom. It actually ended up being like a triple bottom. But, we're just, the beautiful thing is that this level held or has held, right? But again, getting this kind of bullish move out of here is fantastic. And again, if you look at the same thing that we just looked at before, look at the low here, right? Now, granted, here we're not making lower lows, right? We're just down into that same price level, right? Versus with S&P, we were clearly making a lower low. So in that case with S&P, that divergence was even more meaningful. Here, we just have the same lows, but again, you do want to look for the divergence. So if I just go to for this histogram here and here, right? You can see again, it's if I do that, you can see it a little bit better. But again, we've bullish divergence, right? Yes, we've come down to the same level, but it's not, the histogram is not as strong, right? So here's your bullish divergence, even though we've come back down into that same level, right? So all good signs. And here we do have the blue line in the process of crossing over. So that's, again, another strong positive sign. So I think at this point, so now when I look at this, I go, okay, well, what can I expect next week? I think we're going bullish next week, right? There's no reason to think after the day that we had today here that we shouldn't be making a run back up to this level right here, right? So I'm thinking, I'll be looking next week, looking for some type of a push up back into this level here. And then we'll probably get into here, pull back a little bit, and then, go through. Unless something happens and there's some, catalyst that just makes us rampage through that, which could also happen. But again, if for next week, if I'm setting up trades, I'm going to be targeting like this level right here for next week, right? For that move. Again, it could, happen very quickly, or it could just, pull up a little bit, pull back, pull up. But anyway, that's the level I'm looking at for targeting for next week in terms of the broader markets here, well, specifically the NASDAQ. All right, let me switch up real quick. Let me go back to this other screen here. So real quick, before I get off the broader markets, any thoughts, questions, opposing views? Anybody have their own ideas about, what to expect? Again, I'm just sharing with you my own thought process and what I think, but I'm open to other ideas. So if anybody has other thoughts, what would be an entry? Well, I'll tell you what, Al, for which one, Al? So Qs or SPY, what are you thinking? I mean, you want to look at both real quick? Okay. I'll do it up here. Let me go to so if I was looking, let's pull up SPY first. Okay. Or Al, you tell me you want me to look at SPY or you want to look at the S&P? SPY. Cool. Okay. So here's what I'm thinking for next week. Okay. This is a classic candle that when I see this kind of a move next week, like if this was happening tomorrow, okay, so this is now Friday, so we have to wait till Monday. But if this were happening tomorrow, let's say that today was Thursday and tomorrow, we're closing up here. It looks like we're going to close pretty strong, right? I'm looking at tomorrow anywhere from a 30 to 50% retracement on this candle, and that's where I'm looking to get in. So if I just simply were to throw on, basically on this candle from today, the fib retracement, right? And then let's just look at, price level. So 30% guessing is somewhere around right here. And then of course, 50% right here. Okay. So I'll throw those lines on here. And this is going to be the same for the Qs, right? I'm just going to do the same thing on the candle for the Qs, but let's just look at this. So if I throw those lines on there, right? Here's again, I'm eyeballing about, if that's 38.2 right here, I'm guessing that's probably about 30. Okay, more or less. But again, I'm looking for about a 30 to 50% retracement on this candle, and looking for some type of an entry there. All right, because I'm certainly not going to be getting in. So even if, like, let's say the SPY opens kind of flat, or it gaps up a tiny bit on Monday, I'm still looking for that pullback. So at this point, let's go into let's go to the hourly, right? And so now what I want to do is I want to go into the hourly, and I want to see, let's extend these lines left, right? Do these lines line up with anything that would make sense? And look at that right here, right? Look at, if I'm looking at the hourly, and I look at where this line is cutting through. And again, you saw what I did just on the daily chart. I wasn't even looking at a smaller time frame. I was just eyeballing basically what that 30% retracement is. Now I'm looking, and the reason I'm looking at the hourly now is because that is going to be, obviously it's going to be more reliable than the 15, the 30, right? So I'm going to start on the hour. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to say, okay, do these lines line up with anything, that's relevant? And the answer is yes. Let me zoom in a little bit more here. Okay. So this line here, if we just look at that line, clearly it was back here. It was the level that was holding this 1 hour candle up, right? Then it finally broke and it retested it, right? And it failed to get back above that line, and then it dropped, came back up. Look at that, perfect. I'm almost perfectly right on that pivot. The line falls, right? Gets rejected, comes back up. What happens here? Gets rejected, right? It tries, comes back down, boom. Finally, we get that close above it, come up, we come back down, we retest that line, right? And you saw, again, I'm not making this up, you saw me just randomly drop that line in there. And then I'm going into the hourly to see, does it make sense? Comes up, comes back down, right? It doesn't hold here, it comes down, but then this next line down here, right? Obviously in perfect level, right? Came down there, held, and then it kind of chopped between these two lines. Then it failed, came back up. So these two lines, pretty relevant, right? So, and then the other thing to point out is that this line does fall right on the point of control for this day. So to me, that's relevant. This line's pretty close to the point of control here and here, right? So there's a lot of things here that make me believe that if price starts to pull back on the SPY, I'm looking at these two levels, right? And so do I know which level I'm going to buy at? If that were to happen, no, because I'm going to be watching the price, and I'm going to be watching how price interacts at those levels, and then see, right? I mean, if I look at the, if we look at this and think, okay, it's going to pull back, well, it's not going to happen in the first 5 minutes of the market, right? We're not going to get a 30 to 50%, retracement on today's daily candle in 5 or 10 minutes. It's going to take a little time. So what I will do at that point is I'm going to be looking at these higher time frames, the hour, the 30-minute, right? And I'm going to see, are these, when price comes down to these levels, is there some indication of a bounce, right? Is there a hammer candle? Is there, of course, I'll be looking at it on a smaller time frame first, and then jumping. So I'll be looking at a 5 minute, and I'll jump to a 15 and 30 in the hourly. But in terms of establishing these levels I'm going to look for, I'm starting with the daily, then I'm going to drop down to the hourly, right? And so then if we even come over here on the 30-minute, look on the 30-minute and say, okay, same thing. Again, do these lines that I just dropped in here, are they in alignment with anything on the 30-minute? And sure, plenty, right? Look at all these pivots here, right? So I like those two levels. That's what I'll be looking for. Again, doesn't mean it's going to happen. No, but that's at least that's what I'm going to go into Monday thinking, right? So let's see. That's the SPY. I'm just going to leave all this on here. Al, does that make sense with the SPY? Okay. So in those levels, we're looking at, oh, here's the other thing. Interesting. On the hourly, right? This one line also is lining up with, and again, this will change, of course, with time, but right now, this line is lining up with the 10 EMA on the hourly, right? You know, if price starts to roll down here, this might go a little flatter, right? So that's another interesting thing I just noticed, that it is lining up with the 10 EMA on the hourly. So we're looking at a level of like, that's 427.85 here and 426 basically, right? So almost, just shy of just a little bit south of 428 and then also 426. So if you are looking at like general whole numbers, that's it. Let's look at the Qs. We can just do the Qs quickly as well. Start on the daily. Go back to here. So again, I'm just going to throw on the fib retracement just on today's candle. If I can get it to work. There we go. Okay, so there's the retracement on today's candle. So 50%, let's drop the line here on the 50 just so we have it. Right, and then 30% retracement somewhere around here. All right, so where did my 50 go? I lost it. Pretty close. Okay, so 50% line, roughly 30. Again, I'm just eyeballing, right? So if I here on the that's on the daily candle, right? Just today's candle, and this is on the Qs. Let's go into the hourly. And again, look, I mean, that 30% retracement is lining up really nicely with this double top, right? Which we clearly would be a nice area to retest and potentially bounce. And then the 50% retracement lining up with some of these pivots, this one here, right? You can look here clearly. This was the area where it got rejected here, right? So there was overhead resistance here and rejected price here, here, right? Look at these two candles, right? Hugging that line. This candle on that line, right? This candle, that's where it got rejected. Couldn't get above it. So I'm liking those two lines as well. So we're looking at so 360.50 more or less, and then up here like 362.50, somewhere in that range. And again, that doesn't mean I'm just going to be blindly setting up limit buys there. I could, right? There's nothing that says I couldn't do that. But what I'll likely do is just watch these levels, right? Look for some type of retracement. Again, for all I know, Monday could be a gap up and it could just run, right? I don't know. But from experience, I know that given the nature of these candles on the daily chart, right? More often than not, I am seeing some type of a retracement the following day. And again, granted, it's Friday, the market is closed tomorrow, but Monday is then technically the next day. So what do you think, Al? Is that good for you as well on the cues? And I'm curious, does anybody have any other thoughts there? I know there's a few of you here who subscribe to this same concept, right? Because I know we've talked about it. This, and when I say concept, I mean this, the idea that on a candle like this, you do expect some type of a retracement the following day. Market open on Monday. Yeah, I mean, Monday's not a holiday, is it? Columbus Day. Well, let's do this. Yeah, bonds are closed. DJ Jan. I was going to say also because the way that we could double check it is we go into real life trading. Give me a second. All right, if we go into here, go into live trading. And I should know this because I am the one who does the calendar here. So if the market were closed, it would say it right here, right? So let's see. Right here, see how this says stock market closed, right? So it would, that's for Thanksgiving. I actually need to go in. I thought I removed those already, but clearly I didn't. I have to go in there and do that. Right? Stock market closed. So yeah, so we are open on Monday. We will be trading. We're here. All right, let's go into, let's see. DJ Dan, I didn't think you would be here this late on a Friday. I figured you would have a gig that you had to get to. It's funny because when cancel all gigs to hang out with us. You know, it's funny, Dan. I didn't even think because when Maloney said that because initially she was covering for Yates today, right? So originally on the calendar it was Yates. Then Yates was going to be on a plane, so Maloney said she would cover for Yates, and then Maloney couldn't do it because of her eye infection. And I was like, you know what? I'll see if I can find somebody to cover for you, and if not, I'll do it. Never even occurred to me to check with you because I figure Friday afternoons you're, you know, probably getting ready for a gig. So it's all right. I'm good doing 3 to 5. Do you have a gig tonight? Tomorrow off today. Good for you. All right. Good for you to have a day off. All right. Let's go back here. So I want to go back real quick. Now let's go. I want to show you. Let's go back and look at a couple of these tickers that it's 351 now. Okay. So, again, when we were looking when I got on the mic at 3 o'clock, and we're like, all right, let's see if there's any potentials, right, for trades. Just look at this real quick, right? I mean, this was back here. This was when I took over. This is what we were looking at, and just look how price has just been holding this level, right? Just another, reason why taking into consideration time of day and thinking through what's going to happen, what's going to have to happen in order for a trade to work out. Now, let's go into the higher time frame. Let's go. Here's the 5 and 15, right? So I was saying how price interacted with the 15 back here, but it for a trade at 3 o'clock to work out, price is going to have to come down here, interact with the 15, and off that likely bounce, and then before and so again, just to reiterate, why sometimes you got to just go, all right, I would love to trade, but maybe it doesn't make sense, right? Because who wants to sit through an hour of just sideways action waiting for something to happen that just is not going to happen? And now at 3:53, right, it's finally starting to roll, but you're going, okay, I'm going to have what, 7 more minutes, right? So we'll just see. I mean, here it's interacting, right, with this. We're not going to get, this candle is not going to close until the close of the market, right? So that 15-minute 10 EMA right now is going to be providing support, or should be providing support here, right? Price is going to likely just going to hang out around that 15-minute 10 EMA for the next 7 minutes. I was also looking at NVIDIA. Right? Again, just never even gave you an opportunity. Well, and what's interesting about NVIDIA, check this out. I wasn't watching when this flipped, but at some point of control moved up. See this? I don't think it was that high, or maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember it being that high when I had first taken over. I do know, let's go back to Tesla real quick. Did the point of control move up? And it did. Look at that. Yep. When I first took over, we could go back to the recording. The point of control was down here, right? And I was talking, so the point of control was here. So I hadn't even noticed that it had flipped and gone up, because I made a comment when I first took over. I was talking about these nodes here, right? When I was referring to, when I look at those, I think of like branches of a tree, and the farther that they stick out, right, it's going to provide, if you're falling, right, and the limbs are really short, you're just going to keep falling. But if they're sticking out, it's going to slow you down. And sure enough, and so the point of control moved up, because at the time, this node right here was the point of control, because I remember making the comment about how extended we were, how far away from VWAP we were, and also how far away from the point of control, and the point of control had not moved up, and it did. Now that's on the 5-minute. 15-minute, the point of control is still down here. So I would have to go back to the recording and see if I was making those comments based on the 15 or based on the 5-minute. I thought I was looking at it on the 5-minute when I made that comment. But anyway, but again, 4 more minutes until the market close, right? And here we go, right into that 15. And what do? You get a little bounce. All right. Amazon. These are all, I'm just going to go through real quick, all the tickers that I've got on a different screen that I've just been, watching, that I was watching going into that 3 o'clock hour. And again, same thing here, right? Here's that 15-minute 10 EMA. Price was all above it at that time, 3 o'clock, when we were looking at taking a trade, and it's just going to come down here, and it's just going to hit it, and it's going to just hang out, right? Now we get 4 minutes before the market closed. I mean, there's a lot of bearish volume on this candle, but where's it going? So you could have easily just been, sitting in a trade, just, waiting for it to do something, and it does nothing. And again, with the strength of the market the way it was, right? Everything was looking the same from like 11:30 today. Everything just rampaged bullish. Microsoft. Right. I know Johnny was looking at Microsoft, looking for, it didn't even double top, right? It doesn't even show you. And y'all know that I'm looking, me personally, what I'm looking for is that shooting star here with volume. Doesn't even exist, right? Never even got it. Just in the last few minutes that we got a little bit of a sell-off here, right? But not much. All right, let's just keep an eye. Let's go to Google was the other one. Just take a look at Google real quick. You know, look, I mean, volume, nothing. I mean, you got a little bit of a volume spike here, but not much, right? And again, not shocking that in the last, what, 15 minutes of the market, you get, you know, a little bit of selling, right? After a move like that, I'm sure there's a lot of people are like, you know what? I'm not going to, you know, have, forget about overnight exposure, but, you know, over the weekend exposure, I'm just going to take my profit. Right. So anybody who was all profitable all through this move, taking money off the table, locking in their profit going into the weekend, why not? Right. So this is what I would have needed to see like at 3 o'clock for me to be interested in taking a short trade, meaning getting a close below the 15-minute 10 EMA, right? On the 5-minute, seeing if that could happen. But you know, it's only happening now. This is what I was talking about a some type of a reversal of trend, right? Because we, you know, all through this move here, right? The closes were either this looks like it's still a, we had just had higher, right? None of the 15-minute candles here were, we didn't get a close below any of them, right? Even here, right? Well, technically, I guess that is, but not, we didn't get a close below the low of that candle. We got a close below the body. All right, so that's 4 o'clock. That should be the market. All right, so I'm going to stop the recording here. Thank you, Martina. I just looked over. Yes. So, all right. So that's the end of the first hour. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.